What if the path to becoming wealthy isn't paved with pennies saved, but with dollars intentionally spent? It's a question that feels wrong to even ask. We've been raised on a financial gospel of scarcity. Clip the coupons, pack your lunch, forego the $5 coffee. The core belief is that wealth is a fortress you build brick by brick, and every dollar you spend is a brick you're giving away. This idea is so deeply ingrained that challenging it feels like financial heresy. Yet this very mindset, the one designed to protect us from poverty, is often the invisible cage that keeps us from true prosperity. In this video, we're going to dismantle the architecture of the scarcity mindset. This isn't just about money. It's about a fundamental shift in how we perceive value, time, and our own potential. The scarcity mindset is the deep-seated belief that there's never enough. Not enough money, not enough opportunity, not enough time. It puts us in a constant state of defense, forcing us to make decisions based on fear of loss rather than the potential for gain. We will explore how strategic, intentional spending on quality, on education, on our own time can paradoxically be the most powerful engine for building a richer life, in every sense of the word. The most common and accepted version of financial wisdom is simple: live below your means. It's the foundation of nearly every personal finance book on the shelf. The hero of this story is the person who drives a 20-year-old car, meticulously tracks their budget in a spreadsheet, and proudly calculates how much they've saved by avoiding brand-name groceries. We admire this discipline. We see it as a virtue, a sign of responsibility and foresight. The narrative is that wealth is a game of defense. The less you let escape your grasp, the more you will have. This logic is mathematically sound, and for a long time, I lived by it. I bought the cheap tools that would break after a few uses. I spent hours trying to fix things myself to avoid paying a professional. I chose the cheapest option for everything, believing I was making the smart move. I was saving money. But if saving money is always the right answer, why did I feel like I was running in place? The first crack in this fortress of frugality appeared when I stumbled upon a simple economic theory tucked away in a fantasy novel. It's called the Vimes Boots Theory of Socioeconomic Unfairness. The theory goes like this. A rich man can afford to spend $50 on a pair of high-quality leather boots that will last him for 10 years. A poor man can only afford a $10 pair of flimsy boots that will fall apart after a single season. Over the course of those 10 years, the poor man will have spent $100 on boots, and his feet will still be wet. The rich man is out $50, but his feet are dry, and he has spent less money. This idea was an intellectual earthquake. It suggested that my relentless focus on the initial price tag was a trap. What if my cheap purchases weren't saving me money at all? What if they were secretly making me poorer? To understand this, we need to introduce a new analytical tool, a different way of measuring value. Let's stop thinking about money as our most precious resource and replace it with time. Money is renewable. You can always earn more. Time is the only asset you are guaranteed to lose every single second. Once I started viewing my decisions through the lens of time, the world looked completely different. That cheap flight with 2 layovers wasn't a 10-hour flight that saved me $200. It was a 24-hour ordeal that cost me an entire day of my life. A day I could have spent working, learning, or resting. That cheap, slow laptop wasn't a bargain. It was a thief, stealing minutes from me every single day with its lagging performance and constant crashes. We've been taught to trade our time for money, but we rarely calculate the cost of trading our money for more time. What you believe is noble frugality is often just a transaction where you sell your non-renewable time for a small discount. The moment I started asking, what is my hourly rate for my own life? The definition of expensive completely shattered. The most expensive things were often the ones that cost the least amount of money. If all that is true, then we can't ignore the biggest, most terrifying leap of all. It wasn't buying better boots or a faster computer. It was spending a significant amount of money to hire someone to do something I was perfectly capable of doing myself, but that I either hated or was inefficient at. For me, it was bookkeeping and editing. The thought of paying someone hundreds of dollars for a few hours of work felt extravagant, irresponsible. It went against every frugal instinct I had. But the impact was immediate and profound. It wasn't just about offloading tasks. It was about buying back my mental energy. It freed up hours of my week, hours I could now dedicate to the work that only I could do, the work that I was best at, the work that actually generated income. The money I spent wasn't an expense. It was an investment in my own focus. It created a positive feedback loop. Buying back my time allowed me to generate more value, which in turn created more resources to buy back even more of my time. My income didn't just grow, it multiplied. If spending on quality saves money, and spending to save time creates more productivity, then what was the real barrier holding me back for so long? To answer that, we have to look at the invisible architecture of fear. This fear, this scarcity mindset, isn't a personal flaw. It's often an inheritance. For many of us, it was passed down from our parents or grandparents. Think of the generation that lived through the Great Depression. For them, extreme frugality wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a survival mechanism. They saved every scrap, reused every jar, and feared debt because they had seen what happens when the system collapses. They developed a deep-seated financial trauma, and they passed on the behaviors they learned, the lessons of scarcity, to their children as an act of love. They were trying to protect them. But we inherited the habits without the context. A behavior that was essential for survival in 1930 can become a psychological prison in the 21st century, preventing us from taking calculated risks, from investing in our own growth, and from seeing the world as a place of opportunity rather than a place of constant threat. But I know what you're thinking. This all sounds like a fancy justification for reckless consumerism. What about discipline? What about the virtue of saving? That high savings rate is the undeniable sign of financial health, right? This is the strongest argument for the scarcity mindset, the idea that a large pile of saved cash is the ultimate security blanket. And for a time, I believed it. But let's deconstruct that virtue. Saving money, in itself, is not the goal. Money is a tool. A pile of cash sitting in a low-yield savings account isn't working for you. It's slowly losing its power to inflation. It's a stagnant resource. Hoarding it out of fear is the financial equivalent of keeping a racehorse locked in a stable because you're afraid it might trip. Yes, it's safe, but you are completely missing the point of having a racehorse. The shift occurs when you see that money not as a treasure to be guarded, but as an army to be deployed. Its purpose is to go out and capture more value by investing in assets that grow, by acquiring skills that increase your earning potential, or by buying tools that make you more effective. The appearance is that saving money is the ultimate act of responsibility. The truth is that fear-based hoarding is just another way of letting scarcity control your life. Even this great virtue was just a symptom of the same core problem. So let's assemble the full picture. It begins with the simple realization that buying cheap can be expensive in the long run. That evolves into the understanding that your time is infinitely more valuable than your money. That leads you to the uncomfortable but transformative act of spending money to buy back your own time and mental space. And finally, you see that the deep-seated fear of spending is often an inherited trauma that keeps you in a defensive crouch. The final breaking point for me was realizing that every major leap forward in my life, in my career, in my happiness, in my finances, came directly after a difficult, intentional, and what once would have seemed expensive decision. It was the decision to invest in a skill, to hire a mentor, to buy the right equipment. The scarcity mindset had been promising me security, but all it delivered was stagnation. Now that we've dismantled the machine of scarcity that holds us back, one question remains. What does a life built on a foundation of abundance actually look like in practice? The answer changes everything.